let's talk about the thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and that's how the police will make you cop out. And this goes for state police and federal police. There's a lot of times that you'll get charged with a crime, and a lot of people don't have bail money. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I got arrested when I first got my 6.5. That was for a burglary and an arson. Now, I didn't even do the arson, but I went down for the burglary, and it was some bullshit. So I'm sitting in the county jail, and my bail is $250,000. Where the fuck am I going to come up at 16 years old with $250,000? Now, mind you, I was only looking at a 6.5 on a cop out. So I ended up copping out to the 6.5, even though I didn't do the arson. I ended up copping out anyway, just so I could get the fuck out of jail. So I could do my little 4 months, which ended up being 6 months because I did a bunch of fights and shit in the county. I ended up in a box for a while. So that kind of like fucked me up. I ended up maxing out the 6 months, right? But regardless to the fact, you'll catch a case and the police will drag the fuck out you. The criminal justice system is designed to make you cop out. Because when you cop out, they save money. It costs them money to go to trial. It costs them money to prosecute a case. They got to pay forensics. They got to pay all these different people that's involved that are there to convict you of a crime. Now, a lot of times, the police and the feds know they got a shitty case. They know their case is shaky. But they also know they might be able to do one or two things. Get you to snitch because they're just dragging you in the county. And the county's the worst place to be because you don't got no real commissary. There's violence and fights all the time. It's full of crackheads and fake motherfuckers who think they tough, but they only in the county for fucking 2 months or some shit like that. Especially if you're on Rikers Island, you in there with high gang activity. You in there with shitty ass food, shitty commissary, violence all the time, COs who don't care and just unsanitary living conditions, etc. State prison is a lot better than being in the county. And I don't care what state you're in, what city. The county is always worse than state prison. Yeah, state prison some people might get killed or something in state prison. That's how state prison is. But the reality, the fact is, it's still way better than being in the county jail. Nobody would rather do 10 years in the county jail than 10 years in state prison. Now, I heard the feds was a lot better than state, and it really depends on where you're at. You can go to a federal prison. From the stories I heard, I mean, nothing I seen, but from the stories I heard, some of these federal prisons are insanity, just war zones, racist, violence, all types of crazy shit that I never had to deal with. I wouldn't want to deal with that. But they'll sit you in the county, and while you're sitting there, you're saying, oh, I want to go to trial. They'll have a pre-trial. They'll have to get jury selection. You'll go to court 20, 30 times. And you're just sitting there. You're sitting in the county. You might not have a court date for 6 months. Especially with COVID, they started dragging court dates even further now. They use it as an excuse. The criminal justice system is overcrowded. There's way too many people that are getting sentenced to large amounts of time, etc. So what they'll do is they'll tell you, well, if you cop out right now, we'll give you 3 years. And you've been sitting in the county jail for 2.5. So you'll go home in 6 months. Or if you take it to trial, we're going to set a court date and then it'll be 6 months later. So you already have the 3 years in. So a lot of guys are like, well, I'm just going to cop out so I can get the shit out the way so I could go home, even if they're not guilty. Or they might be guilty, but know for 100% fact that they can beat the case. Like, they lawyers know this, they know this, or a lot of times I have a public defender, and the public defender's office is completely overcrowded with cases, etc. So a lot of these guys, they cop out from the conditions that they're being forced to. Now, in New York, they started letting a lot of people go home with the bail reform without bail. Guess what? Conviction rates are way down. People copping out, way down. People beating cases, way up. So I guarantee you the Bail Reform Act is going to get overturned, or it's going to get changed eventually, because the criminal justice system is a money-making product. It is the new plantation. They want to send you to jail. They want you to go in there and work. They want you to get this funding. They want you to create things because there's industries like craft, farms, etc. that inmates work on. Inmates do road work that they would have to pay a construction worker $40, $50 an hour to do. They got inmates out there for 12 cents an hour. It's literally the plantation. The chain gang ain't never stopped. So they want to keep this criminal justice system booming, and bail reform is the number one way that they're not going to be able to do that. Bail reform, a lot of guys ain't copping out. A lot of guys can be like, well, we can go to trial. Fuck that, because I know I can beat the case. But the reality of the situation is this. The feds, local police, whoever it is, they're going to try their hardest to do the least amount of work and to give you the most amount of time. So they want you to cop out. And they know that if they sit you in the county jail, they're going to get more funding and you're going to be sitting in there. And eventually, most people are either going to snitch or cop out. And this is why the conviction rates are so high.